a trial and error, don't finally find good partners, and finally leave Vietnam with a bad impression.
Who should seriously consider Vietnam and who should not? Because Vietnam is not meant for everybody.
That matters a lot here. That personal relationship that you have with people sometimes is even stronger than just a business relationship. I think patience and then also strategic planning is key when you want to enter Vietnam. And then
good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of World Trade Center, Bengaluru, Chennai, and Kochi, we are bringing this series called the Discovery Series. We are doing this together with the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, BCIC. And the World Trade Center Binh Duong New City is partnering for this episode, where we are going to feature Vietnam as a destination for business. We have Ms. Huing Ding Thai Lin. So she is the CEO of World Trade Center Binh Duong New City, one of our active members in the World Trade Centers Association. Lin is also the chair for the member advisory councils for conferences and exhibitions. And next in the panel, we have Guillaume Rondon. He is the CEO and founder of Move to Asia Company Limited. They are a company dedicated for helping entrepreneurs and investors navigate opportunities in Southeast Asia. He is a French national. He has that interest in South Asian countries, and he is based in Chi Minh City today. He's also a person, if you are really keen to move into Vietnam and know about how it is to do business there, he's the person to reach out to. Guillaume, thank you so much for joining us today, and we really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you, Vivek, and thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you. And we have Kanvir. He's one person who brings in the lighter side of things.
So I want to straight jump into the conversation about Vietnam, and they have the statement that Vietnam is the next China. No, it's not. Vietnam is not the next China with cheaper labor. It's not a place where, where speed, aggression, or the Indian word jugaad are rewarded. It's actually a disciplined system. And the Vietnamese entrepreneurial system, you have to understand it. It's slightly different from the free market economy as defined by the Kenyans of the world and the economists of the world. It's free market with a controlled essence. So if you understand that, and I think the panelists over here are going to help us explain that, but capital is welcome, long-term intent is respected, but short-term intent is not respected in Vietnam. I'd like to start with Thai Lin, who has already another country in her name, Thai, and she's in Vietnam. So we'll have Ms. Thai Lin tell me about her perspective on Vietnam.
The new wave nowadays, and I can see and observe from the market that many Indian companies try to tap in Vietnam market with the ICT sectors. We try to transform our country. Every sectors in Vietnam try to follow the flow of digital transformation. So the Indian people, you are very good at ICT. So we also need to learn from you a lot. And we also can see some of the new projects like the e-mobility. Tata Power and already discussed with some of the big company in Vietnam, and Adani also concerned about the logistic and infrastructure. So which is really critical nowadays. And one of the things that Vietnamese interested is about the railway. Indian people were famous with the railway infrastructure development very fast. So we need to learn from that in order to develop our further. So that is something about the new trend. Why we need Indian company tap into Vietnam market. One of the things we already have some side just before this section, we mentioned about the EdTech. So many Vietnamese people travel overseas, come back. And most of them try to collaborate with the Indian FIEs, foreign small enterprise, in order to develop different kind of platform for the EdTech, and which is very critical because we try to level up our capability and our population. So that is something about the trend.
With that, it gives me a good segue into talking to Guam. Guam is the co-founder of a company which, interestingly, is called Move to Asia. Guam, you have the floor for the next, say, 5 minutes to give people a perspective of when they dream about Vietnam and how do they set foot in Vietnam. How do they bridge that gap from dreaming to doing?
Thank you very much. So yeah, one of the first thing we have to keep in mind between Vietnam and India is that every year the bilateral trade are growing very fast. So just 2024, 2025, it's already 10%, and it has been cumulated over the last decade. There are still things that have to be smoother with maybe more bilateral trade agreement that can strengthen the ties between Vietnam and India. But obviously right now with the structure through the ASEAN India trade agreement, it's already the path that should strengthen and then provide more dynamism for importing Indian products to Vietnam or exporting from Vietnam to India. Then I would like to emphasize it because key message as well is to have the proper landing strategy for also talking to SMEs, because not all the companies having capabilities like that to really master several Asian markets and enter all of them at the same time. For example, today, one Indian entrepreneur is looking at Vietnam as a market to enter. Right now, there are some key sectors that they could consider because there is not enough availability in Vietnam or because there is a gap. And with current market strategy, that could be interesting through either joint venture or through finding a partner in Vietnam or through really setting up your own entity to try to enter that gap and then trying to leverage it from your Indian perspective. And I would like to highlight at least three sectors for that. The first one is pharmaceutical, because right now Vietnam is importing 55% of its meds in country. And with the population getting older and older, there will be a need and a growing need for imported medicine. And India is obviously known for that and excel for that type of manufacturing. The second is agri-tech. And I think you already shared earlier that some of the people joining us today are in that field. So at bridging from agriculture perspective, trying to embed technology, because right now Vietnam is growing very fast into exporting, for instance, coffee. Last year we hit 8 billion US dollar of export value for coffee, 40% jump compared to last year. Cashew nut is also following with a 5 billion US dollar record-breaking turnover from last year. There is that trend also of more and more agri tech that is also embedded into the farms or trying to really manage the farming and then the processing aspect. So combining with that growing agri-tech sector, it's definitely a need that could potentially be fulfilled by Indian startup that are specialized in this climate or smart farming. And then the last thing that is also related to IT is about the digital transformation, because Vietnam planned by 2030 to have 30% of its GDP that will be linked to digital economy and digital transformation. So there will be a need for specifically the SME sector for all the SaaS, cybersecurity and fintech, because obviously the Vietnamese ecosystem is right now already very strong in terms of IT capabilities. There is strong players that obviously will fulfill first the large Vietnamese companies, but there will be always an untapped market that will be more for the SME scale. So as an SME IT, or if you are into that digital transformation, you can probably also offer a certain tailored service and directly trying to tap into the Vietnamese market from India. Now, just a last thing, I don't know if already through my presentation, I think Mr. Canvin, you said earlier through your posts, I think patience and then also strategic planning is key when you want to enter Vietnam. And then you will also have to prepare it accordingly, but sometimes take a step back and then wait to really plan it strategically to be able to leverage it effectively, I would say. But I think we can discuss deeper later through our discussion.
One great points. I would like to little bit drill it down a little bit more into what you just said, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about two, three things. One is, do you know anything about the approvals or the visas, or how do you step into Vietnam, especially when it comes to the sectors that you talk about, at pharma and agri? The approvals are slightly slow. So, do you have any suggestions about what kind of strategy should one adopt? Would you know about the procurement process? Because a lot of the Indians who try to enter Vietnam, they find it slightly bureaucratic and not knowing the exact door to knock on. So maybe you'd like to speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a great topic that you raise right now. So, so in terms of market entry strategy, if an Indian company or at least a foreign-owned company want to enter the Vietnamese market, you could think obviously to try to set up a 100% foreign-owned company. But if you see early on through the current regulations that are right now, for instance, through a consulting company or a lawyer that you will hire, that there are current regulations that are quite strong, then immediately you could try to switch into joint venture type of approach and then plan your market entry into looking at a partner in Vietnam that may already exist or finding already distributors or channels that may already be there. And so you can try to also soft land, I would say, within the Vietnamese market. And of course, because regulations are always moving forward, at least in those sectors that are key and that are essential for Vietnam, it can be a way to already understand the market, make some first iteration into your product, your services, and maybe sell it through partners. And then after that, trying to be fully compliant, for instance, your own company that you be fully managed 100% with from India.
This is also maybe William, you also deal with this thing daily, how to start with the business in Vietnam. So for instance, that I'm willing to receive the information by email to own of the Indian company, and also William Rondan also willing to receive information from you. And every company you have your own demand, you have your own requests. So we base on that in order to filter and also refer to the right partner you should working with. So for WTC Binh City, we are considered as the focal contact in order to support to spread the information out. And of course, we would like to become the one-stop shop that you can deal with things and you don't need to worry in order to move around different departments in order to deal with things. So that is something we can support you on that. And based on that, we also have different of the connection with association based on the sectors you work with. They are also very open in order to support you. So that is something nowadays, all of the association and organization like us try to work hard in order to support many foreigners to come into our market. I think, William, you should share some ideas from your side as well.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Aline. If I can add a bit of the perspective, because I'm speaking to clients daily that are looking to enter the Vietnamese market, and very often from India, actually, Vietnam look very close. But when we look at the way people behave here in Vietnam, people think very much into a closed circle. So they will trust very much their peers, their family members, their whole relationship that they have been building over years. So when a stranger arrive with either they want to do business with them, sometimes it's very hard to match people together. That's why I think the trade center delegations that Ms. Stalin have suggested could be very beneficial for both parts, because you really bring a delegation of people and then you help and then you assist with like all the ice breaking, I would say. You need very often a facilitator that can do all this groundwork. So that's one thing. So face to face in Vietnam matters a lot. People here, they like to sit down face to face to discuss not only pricing, but also are we aligned? Are we on the same page? And are we sealing the foundation of a win-win partnership? That's key here. And more than that, here I think when you approach the Vietnamese market, you have to look also at two clusters. You have the south and then you have the north. And also depending where could be your potential distributors or partners, sometimes you have to take a trip in the south and also in the north. We are based in Ho Chi Minh City. So my team here, most of the staff that I have here, they are all from mostly from the south of Vietnam. And when I send some of my staff to the north of Vietnam, I always see them a bit more hesitating and then struggling. So meaning that even within Vietnam, you have a bit two layer. You have the layer from the north, the layer from the south, and that's part of the history. So as a foreigner trying to enter the Vietnamese market, if you have that need into, you want to target, I don't know, northern part, you want to build a distribution channel in the north and in the south, you may have to spend the same equivalent of time in the south as well as in the north. And obviously what the honorary consul, Mr. Murty said, and Ms. Thailand as well, I think having those face-to-face meetings through events that can be organized through the World Trade Center of Binh Duong, or also exhibitions that are sector specific are key. For instance, end of February, we'll be participating at Viet, which is the Vietnam International Trade Fair for apparel, textile, and textile technologies. There will be an Indian corner. So there will be probably 10, 15 companies from India taking that trip to Vietnam at that Vietnam Expo because they will sell their fabrics. They will sell their, for instance, cotton supplies, etc. Because in Vietnam, we don't grow cotton. So of course, they will come here to sell. So they come through that trade show that will also bring buyers. And that's where you can not necessarily close deals, but at least that's when you can get closer to the Vietnamese circle. And after you need to spend time in Vietnam. So you need to spend time with partners and you need to do also that relationship thing that is sometimes, taking people out for coffee, for restaurants, that matters a lot here. That personal relationship that you have with people sometimes is even stronger than just a business relationship. So that's nuances that may be difference between India and Vietnam, but that SME also or owners of companies must know to approach the Vietnamese market effectively and not to come here, do a trial and error, don't finally find good partners and finally leave Vietnam with a bad impression. It's just a matter of preparation, knowing the code, the business etiquettes. So when it's done well, it can be effective.
Vietnam is actually, a lot of people don't realize this, but it is a very matriarchal society. So the women make a lot of decisions. And why I say this is because a lot of the conversations around here are about things like edtech and education. And over there, I think it's the women are quite strong. And you need to design from my conversations with the Vietnamese, different Vietnamese people, you need to design your marketing and your convincing also towards the women in the team and in the house or in the market. Well, maybe you could give us a little bit perspective for people who don't understand Vietnam as much. A little bit between North and South. You spoke a lot about going to the North and going to the South. What is the difference in North Vietnam and South Vietnam? Is there more industry in either of the areas? How do you choose an area to target? How do you, a person who has never seen Vietnam, never been to Vietnam, but wants to open up the market, where should he go first? And are there areas of the industry which are better in the north or the south? Give us a perspective on Vietnam.
Thank you. That's a great question. So actually in the north, when you read the news, for instance, you had this week Viettel, so the number one military company in Vietnam that is very strong in innovation, that is building the first chip factory, okay, for semicon related products, is going to be in the north. So all type of industries that are more highly innovative in terms of that is very often the northern cluster where you will have those industries. You have to consider that the northern part, you are very close to China. So every time you need to import raw materials, it makes sense for a lot of Chinese-owned companies to also set up sub-factories, for instance, in the northern part of Vietnam, because it makes a lot of sense for them in terms of the supply chain to commute directly from China to Vietnam. Then you have a central cluster that is rising, I would say, but still not at the stage of the cluster number 2, which is the south of Vietnam, where the World Trade Center is. So here we are speaking, for instance, in Binh Duong area. If I can just give one product category in furniture, you will have 2,000 factories just focusing on furniture. Wooden furniture, most of them will be 100% for exports. So you have very strong clusters like this that are sectors focused, or you have also all the supply chain and all the subcontractors, so metal parts. You have the rise of electronics as well, with some EMS factories also located in Binh Duong. I visited quite some. Actually, most of the time our team are in Binh Duong area because this is where you have the southern cluster with the most diverse range of factories. Central part of Vietnam could be considered at one point because when you are considering the labor cost, when you are also considering leasing lands for a long period of time, you want to set up your own factory, it could make sense to also look at the central part of Vietnam because some area underrated. But from a first draft perspective, it's 1,000 parts. And then you look at that geographical benchmark first. And after, as I said earlier, you need to implement the similar strategy that you will do in the north and in the south. So if you need to identify and then qualify relevant partners, you should at least conduct the same type of analysis because sometimes in terms of price point or professionalism or capabilities, there will be nuances. It's good to also spend time in parts for manufacturing need or also just to find partners that will help you to distribute your products.
I can add some point here.
Yes.
That nowadays, especially because you know that our country had just reformed from 64 provinces into 34 now. And we also try to develop different strategies for the North, the Middle, and the South. So for the North, we try develop different kind of the high tech, especially nowadays with different kind of semicon activities, and the South as well. The South, we also try to develop the semicon sectors, especially in Binh Duong. And before we have 2,000 the furniture manufacturers, but we also try to support them to be digital transformation, green transformation, as well as that they also convert our North Ho Chi Minh City nowadays, Binh Duong belong to Ho Chi Minh City nowadays, into the science tech city. We try to become Silicon Valley in the north of Ho Chi Minh City. And in the centers of Ho Chi Minh City, we call that area is the IFC, International Financial Center. So we developed the Vietnam IFC, and we try to have the model, and nowadays we have 6,000 square kilometers of Ho Chi Minh City. So we consider that we try to develop the south of Vietnam as Shanghai. That is something that the new strategies, and everyone, especially the new company here, you could come because we have very new strategies support for the startup, SME, and FDI nowadays. Different kind of incentive from the government. After the Lunar New Year, in the next half month, you can see different kind of interesting thing, and you should come to have a look, the north, the south, and in the middle, where it could suitable for you.
That's a great introduction to Vietnam. I'm sure that's something which you don't get on most online. That's simple but great advice. I know that on my trip to Vietnam, I was absolutely floored by Vietnam, and it's an amazing place. Many times in India, we have a greater perspective for places far away from us, like the Americas and Europe, and we have a slightly blurred perspective of places closer to us, like Vietnam and our closer countries. Hopefully, these conversations will open up and make it clearer for all our friendly neighbor countries and places which we can definitely have greater relationship, greater contacts, and greater business with. With that, I'd like to thank Mr. Murthy, Thailand, and Rondon, all the panelists, all the people. We have tried to answer that looking at the thing. Individual questions are slightly difficult to take on, but the idea of these webinars is to give a slight starter into the country and have them connect with BCIC, connect with user, and connect with Guam, Rondon, and have them answer their questions more individually, which will be more detailed. So that's how we generally try to squeeze in everything into our limited 60 minutes.
So with that, we close today. I wish you all a wonderful day and an evening ahead. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.